You are tuning in to Lone Star Community Radio on 104.5 KCZW LP Conroe and 106.1 KZCC LP Conroe and worldwide at irlonestar.com.
Good afternoon. We are so happy to be here today. How's everyone? We're good, right?
Yeah.
Because it's been a crazy, crazy week. So we usually, when we start the Extension Hour, by the way, welcome to the Extension Hour. I'm Amy Ressler. This is the Extension Hour at Texas A&M AgriLife Extension Service. And I have our Family and Consumer Sciences, the whole staff here today. I've got Mike McBride.
Hello, everybody.
Jenny Adams.
Hello.
And Michelle Scaife.
Hi, welcome.
And so usually when we start our Extension Hour, we do a little bit, the first segment, we talk a lot about kind of what's coming up and events and things that we want people to know about, which is always good and important. But given the circumstances of this week and kind of things that have been happening, we wanted to focus more on storm recovery. And after a disaster is what we're really going to talk about, how to recover. So as you know, Hurricane Harvey has come through and wreaked havoc on the whole southeast Texas area, and Montgomery County has sustained quite a bit of damage and lots of floods, and several of us were trapped in our houses for a few days. So what we want to do is, we've got a lot of information in Extension about how to prepare for a flood and what to do. So now at this point, though, the flood, the water's in some places, there's still water, but we're kind of past that. So talking about how to prepare is kind of a moot point now. Now we need to look at how do we recover? What do we do next? So that's really what we want to focus on today. And we're going to look at three different areas. There's so much that we could talk about, but we just want to hit some high points. We're going to talk a little bit about food and food-related issues. We're going to talk about home cleanup and safety, and then also we're going to talk a little bit about things that people don't think about quite as often, but coping with the stress. So we're going to start with talking about food and food-related issues. And Michelle, you pulled up some tips for us and some things that we wanted to talk about to make sure that everyone was aware of.
Absolutely. And so the big key thing to remember every time we deal with food in a power outage or in a flood or in a disaster is, when in doubt, throw it out. Just don't risk it. It's not worth it. I know it's hard to stare at something you've spent your hard-earned money on and throw it in the trash and start over, but it's much safer and easier and better. A lot of us had time without power, without electricity. We may have had water in our homes, and that does change our food safety rules and our food safety guidelines. Sure. So anytime we have a food item that's come into contact with flood water, it just has to go. We have to throw it out. There's no recovering, there's no cleaning it, there's no reclaiming it. It needs to go because there's so much in that flood water that is dangerous and an unhealthy situation. So we throw those out no matter what. If our refrigerator has been without power for more than 2 hours and has been open or closed several times, a lot of times that food has gotten down to the danger point and has spent too much time there, and it needs to go as well. And one thing that's important is when you're throwing that food out, we want to make sure that we've either contained it in a bag well, we've either wrapped it in foil, it's immediately gone to a dumpster situation, or it's been burned if burning is safe in your area, because we don't want animals or other people getting into it and eating it and getting sick too.
Right. Important thing to remember, if it's not safe for human consumption, it's not safe for consumption. So definitely there's a lot of things to do while you're cleaning up. And what you just mentioned, put it in a bag, wrap it up. If it's food that you think is contaminated, we don't want anybody else getting into it. And then in crisis situations as well, people are like really we get desperate. Yeah. And so, you see something, maybe it's good, but like you said, it's not worth the risk. I mean, we've already experienced so much heartbreak and terrible situations that, getting a foodborne illness on top of everything else you've gone through.
Miserable.
Exactly.
I'm a cheapskate, so how much is a doctor going to cost compared to another gallon of milk?
That's a good way to look at it as well. So yeah, it is hard to throw that stuff out because it seems like a loss of money, but
and we've had questions about even I home can this, or it's in a can that's completely sealed, and that's not safe either because there's no telling what's on that, and there's no way to properly sanitize it.
And that's if it's come in contact
With
with
the flood
flood
water.
water. So
Right.
yeah,
Exactly.
we just want to clarify, just because there's water like on the ground, that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to throw everything out. But
Right.
And then with our freezers is another thing that people are usually concerned about when the power goes out. So if there's ice crystals left,
If there's ice crystals left, you can generally refreeze that item. The rule of thumb is 2 days. A full, well-stocked freezer, if it remains closed, is safe for 2 days, and that food will stay at a healthy temperature. A half full freezer is about a day, but that's, again, saying that you didn't open and close it. But if
Right.
you do have ice crystals, that food will generally refreeze. There may be some quality loss. It may be a little bit different texture, but it is still safe.
yeah. So for folks that had to evacuate, leave their home, they come back, they're not sure how long their power was out. The ice crystals are a really good clue.
And I've
It
also
is.
seen a lot of people, they'll either put a glass or a bowl and they'll freeze it and they'll put it like a penny on top. And that way they know if it's, when they come back, if it's at the bottom, even if the power's come back on and it refroze, if the penny's on the bottom of the bowl or cup, you know that it was out of power for long enough for that to thaw completely.
Right.
I've got that bowl in my freezer now.
Yeah, I mean,
Did you do
it's
that
a-
as soon as we knew the storm was coming?
Yep.
yeah, I mean, it's a great little backup trip, just to make sure you're safe.
Sure. Yep. So food, like we said, we don't want anybody getting sick off of it. So
Exactly.
in the freezer, the refrigerator, the other clues, things to look for.
Anytime something has come open, if a can or a container or a milk jug is somewhat swollen looking, if you're unsure, you weren't in your home and you come back and they just look a little off, they smell a little off,
Or they're bulging.
they're bulging, throw it out. Don't taste it. Whatever you do, don't
No,
taste
no,
it.
no, no, no.
But if anything looks odd, like we said, when in doubt, throw it out. And another important thing to remember is if you've had to throw out what's in your fridge, you need to clean the fridge because you're going to have odors, you're going to have some bacteria in there. Generally, we want to open those doors, use either diluted baking soda, vinegar, or bleach in water. Give it a good scrub. Make sure you're getting that rubber gasketing around the edges and let it sit open for a little while. Just let it air out, then bring it back to temperature, plug it in, before we put food back in it.
Good tip. So the other thing we noticed when the storm was coming, the bread aisles, gone.
Gone.
Why is that, Michelle? Why do people do that?
Because everyone thinks peanut butter and jelly. My own family was in the store, and people were very, very worried because there's no bread, there's no peanut butter. What are we going to do? What are my kids going to eat? And I was like, there's more than sandwiches. In reality, besides just bread, there are canned goods. Canned goods are easy. They're excellent. They are shelf stable. For the most part, you can put them in a box. You don't have to worry about electricity. You can eat canned soup without warming it up. May not be as palatable as normal, but it is nourishing and healthful. So check the canned good aisles. Check those dried foods, fruit leathers, fruit roll-ups that are made with whole fruits and vegetables. The pouched, pureed fruits and vegetables, surprisingly, it will carry you over. I mean, there's a lot to be said. Granola, cereal. You can still eat lots of things when there's no bread on the shelf.
Sure.
One thing to remember, I have a brother that weathered a hurricane here in spring back in the mid to late 80s, and they went out and bought all sorts of canned food. They had an electric opener.
Oh, yeah.
So make sure you've
don't
got a way
forget
to
that
open it.
manual can openers too.
Yeah, it doesn't help
Exactly.
if the electricity goes out for sure. And in a crisis situation like this, we're going to talk about stress a little bit later and coping. And one of the ways to cope is, eating well is important. And I say that we're in a crisis, people are desperate. And it's easy to say, remember your My Plate food groups, which, that it's not as important when you're in a crisis like that. But, if you can and you do have that opportunity, being well nourished is a big part of helping get through whatever crisis it is.
Or
It
if you're
is.
helping people too. I mean, some of the people that jumped in their boats and cars and went to go rescue people, they didn't think to necessarily grab some food to take with them. They just
Right.
went because you went.
Right,
you
and
know?
sometimes people are like self-sacrificing,
Right.
but if you don't take care of yourself, you can't take care of other
Exactly.
people.
Very
Like when you're on the airplane and they say then the oxygen mask fall, put it on yourself before you help somebody else. really, it is important to take care of yourself.
Right.
And another thing that's food related that has recently been put out on the news, but maybe not necessarily as well, is those who are on food SNAP benefits. The food SNAP benefits and FSN service has opened the food stamps to be able to purchase deli foods. So your rotisserie chicken, so you're getting some real whole meat there. Sometimes in the deli there's prepared salads or fruit salads or mixed fruits or some pre-made sandwiches. So those things are now purchasable with their food stamps. Also, they have made it so that your services will be available at the beginning of the month of September, so that we don't have to be concerned about waiting till the end of the month when we're in a crisis situation.
Right.
And that deli purchasable hot food thing is through September 30th, right?
It is.
Okay.
It will end September, or be reevaluated September 30th.
Okay,
so
so
we're
the need still is-
definitely approved to purchase prepared foods through September 30th.
Sure. And when you're looking at, families that might be looking at complete devastation, they're definitely the SNAP benefits, Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program benefits, are available, and don't hesitate to apply for those, because it's
What it's there for.
Yeah,
It's there for helping.
and this is going to be a long haul,
Yes.
recovering from the storm and from the hurricane, and we'll talk more about that a little bit later too, about some of the resources and some other things that you can do to kind of make that long haul easier, if possible. But we are going to have to take a break, and then we'll come back and we'll talk just a little bit more about things that you can do after a disaster. You're listening to Lone Star Community Radio. I'm Amy Ressler, and sometimes I forget what I'm talking about, but we'll be back in just a bit.
Relax with a cup of joe or your favorite drink for the Conroe Lake Conroe Chamber of Commerce Chamber Chat. The show airs on the first Tuesday of the month at 11 a.m. on Lone Star Community Radio. Join hosts Courtney Galley and Brian Bondi as they chat about the Chamber's events and programs for the month, and invite Chamber members into the studio to talk about their upcoming events and businesses. Learn about your Chamber with Chamber Chat every first Tuesday at 11 a.m.
Our talk shows and music shows are looking for sponsors. Want to expand your brand awareness? Reach the hyper-local audience in Montgomery County? Lone Star Community Radio sponsorships accomplish this. Want to see our stats and rates? Check out ourlonestar.com/sponsor for more information. Or call in and leave us a message at 936-647-3776 with your questions. Get seen on TV, YouTube, and heard on our podcast, FM, and internet radio. Support your local radio station with Lone Star Community Radio.
And we are back. Thanks for joining us. We are talking about after a disaster. This is Amy Ressler, and I'm with Texas A&M AgriLife Extension Service. And what we do in Extension is we're all about helping Texans make their lives better. In times like this, when a hurricane is hit and we're facing a long road of recovery, and people are wondering what to do. It's not something that we ever expected for it to be this bad. A lot of people are looking for answers, and so we're here. We're one source for answers of things that you can do. So I wanted to mention that we've got a great publication. It's called After a Disaster, and that's kind of one of the things that we're using as we talk today. But After a Disaster, How to Recover. This can be downloaded at http://texashelp.tamu.edu. So it's available, so you remember, what were these people talking about, or I didn't understand what they were saying about this or that. It's got a great table of contents, just pretty much all kinds of things that you need to know. In addition to lots of other resources, we'll talk about those and some of the other things that are available, but I just wanted to make sure to mention that this is really a great publication. So it's called After a Disaster, How to Recover, texashelp.tamu.edu. And then, if you need to, just give us a call. Hey, Mike, what's our phone number?
Okay, that phone number is 936-539-7825.
Good job. I'm picking on him because last time we were here, I asked him what our phone number was, and he was like, I don't know. So, even though we're in the midst of after a disaster, part of coping is having fun, looking for the light, looking for the rays of sunshine. So, Anyway, thanks for being a good sport. All right, so after a disaster, we've been talking about food, what to do with food. When in doubt, throw it out. That's kind of the mantra. So you kind of sum it all up in that. But there's lots of little details around that, and we know that people don't like throwing things away if they don't have to. And we're not saying that you have to. We're just saying if it's questionable, do it, because it's not worth getting sick. So another thing that makes us sick, one of the aftermath effects of a storm or floods is bacteria and mold growth and that kind of thing. So we wanted to talk a little bit, focus on kind of how to clean up after a disaster, how to get your home back to where it's inhabitable. And Jenny, you've actually, the last floods that we had, you had a little bit of experience with this, huh?
Yep, my mother's house flooded. So
Yeah.
she just got it back in order in September, and we thought it got more water in it this time, but somehow it did not. We were shocked.
That's good.
Yes, very thankful for that.
But for those who have had a lot of water in their house, it goes away, it dries up, but it takes a while. So we want to take some steps to alleviate that.
First things first, whenever you can get to your house, make sure your main power source is off. It's been damp. You don't want to risk anything or anybody getting hurt. You can check your foundation for shifts in the house or building and cracking in the foundation. Anywhere that you have a visible mold, sometimes already in the garages, I've been hearing that they can already see it starting.
Yeah.
So you want to get that sheetrock out, and as quick as possible,
Sure.
and the installation.
Do you
also
have any tips on what does the mold look like? What are people saying? Is it black and
it's kind of
slimy, or is it
kind
the
of
pink
black
stuff?
speckly.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
But anything that's weird.
Anything that looks off for sure. My cousin actually down in Houston, they got just a little bit of water in through the weep holes in their laundry room, and thankfully a friend of theirs had a moisture meter and checked, and they actually had to take some of the drywall out because it didn't look like anything, but there was moisture in there, so they had to take like 6 inches of sheetrock out. He was actually working on that yesterday, getting that out, and they were thankful that guy was there. So, but yes, you definitely want to get that sheetrock out of there. If it depends on, how high it is, how high you need to go up. There's certain rules, but
Sure, how high the water level.
yeah, how high the water
affects,
level is, right?
whether you actually have to
Right.
replace it or not.
Right.
Or how much you have to replace.
Yeah, I think last year in the Texas A floods, my mom got 6 inches of water, and they had to take 4 feet of sheetrock out, just because it wicked up the insulation.
Sure.
So you want to take that into consideration. You want to get that out, pull the insulation out, because that's another big thing that can sit there and just hold on to that moisture. You want to get those carpets out. Any upholstered furniture that was submerged, that you can never get all of that clean. Just because you get the outside clean, there's still funky stuff in the middle of that. So any upholstered furniture, you want to get that out of the house too. And sorry, I'm going down my list.
It's okay.
Let's see. Also, any mud or silt, you want to try to get that out of there before it dries, because it'll be a lot easier to get out of there. If it dries, it just kind of becomes concrete. Any appliances that contain insulation, that might not be easily cleaned. You want to have that checked by a service person before you use it. So like a lot of times around your dishwasher has insulation just for noise quality. So you want to have those checked before you start them back up.
And some of those you need to potentially replace as well.
Right,
So
depending
sometimes it
on-
even comes to appliances have to be replaced.
Right, and if they're
for safety.
submerged, all the electronics are probably gone anyway, so those are going to be messed up. You can wash your sheets and bedspreads and curtains in very hot water, or you can have them professionally dry cleaned. Make sure you sanitize all your pots and pans, any items you intend to keep. But again, any of your food, when in doubt, throw it out if it's come in contact with those floodwaters. When it comes to the mold and the replacing your insulation, make sure that your moisture is less than 14% by weight. You can use a moisture meter to check that out. You also want to check the insulation in your attic. Even if you didn't have water all the way into your attic, sometimes the blowing rain and the moisture, it can wick up there. So you want to check all that too. Make sure that is good. You want to remove, don't just kill the mold, because dead mold spores can still cause health problems. That's
Sure.
a main thing. A lot of people just think, oh, I sprayed it with bleach, it's fine.
Yeah.
You really want to scrape and get anything off of there. You can use a solution of 1 cup of bleach to 1 gallon of water, but do not use it in your air system. That's another big important thing they say, because it can, go through your air system, and then it's hard for you to breathe. You You can either rent or buy a dehumidifier to help get a lot of the moisture out of the air. You want to ventilate, open your doors and windows, get some of the fresh air in there so it's not just sitting stagnant.
And we also, so you're getting rid of some of the stuff, right? So there's kind of a method of getting rid of debris. And didn't we post something? You posted
We
something on
did.
Facebook.
Yesterday, we had a really well done infographic from the Montgomery County's county website, and it shows exactly how they recommend that you package, set out at the curb, and set things that are needing to be picked up from that.
And take pictures. That's another big thing for
Yes.
insurance purposes. Take pictures before you start ripping anything out. If you can get the water line in the pictures, that's great, because it makes it a lot easier. Get the VIN numbers or product numbers of all of your appliances, refrigerators, dishwashers, stoves, anything. Make sure you have those product numbers and take pictures of them inside and outside. Take pictures of, yes, you want to get that carpet out of there, but, take pictures of the carpet piled up outside. The insurance adjusters are going to be looking at all of that stuff, and they really don't want your debris picked up until the insurance adjusters have come and actually visibly seen everything that's been taken out of your house. That's another big thing that I was reading yesterday about it.
Sure. And then also to go ahead and register with FEMA now. I
Yes.
mean, even if you have insurance, there still may be some FEMA benefits, but it's better to do it and not need it than not do it and need it later.
Right.
And I know the EPA and the USDA were recommending that if you're going to be handling mold or cleaning out stuff, to wear a ventilation mask, wear some gloves, because you're stirring it up and you're getting it into the air and you're breathing dust particles and mold particles. So
Yes, and
protect yourself.
And handkerchiefs or bandana is not good
It's not enough. They want, it says like a mask, you want a rating of N95.
Yep.
You want to take gloves. You want to have clothesline, clothespins to hang stuff up to start drying, scrub brushes, towels, heavy duty trash bags. Those lawn and leaf bags are great. Make sure you have a little first aid kit, because you never know, even those carpet tacks around the edge of the thing. Oh my gosh, you forget about those till you step on one or rake your hand across one. You need buckets, you need household cleaners, you need disinfectant dish soap, latex gloves, scouring pads, things like that. Another thing, beware of fraud. When people start showing up at your house and wanting you to, watch out for price gouging. You want to watch out for people showing up that are not local, and sometimes they'll have local business cards made that are,
And they're really nice people,
and
too.
they're super nice.
Yeah.
But you want to make sure when you do start looking at getting estimates, you want to get written estimates for more than one contractor. You want to read and understand all contracts you sign. Never sign a contract that has a blank. Don't ever pay a contractor in full or sign a completion certificate until all the work is done and acceptable. Another thing is identity theft. I had a friend this morning on Facebook say that, just from going to get gas, somebody got her number and hit their bank account today. So be very cautious. And you want to make sure that, any contractors you use have good references, and, ask to see examples of their work. There may be places local. If they're local, they've got some places that they've worked on. They can either get you pictures or let you go see it. So.
Sure. So that reminds me of a couple of places that I was going to mention that are good sources for help and information. So one is the Chamber of Commerce. So the local Chamber of Commerce, either here in Conroe or the Woodlands,
There's one in Montgomery too.
They know the businesses, so they know who's reputable, and they can help provide that information. And then also the Attorney General's office. So you mentioned price gouging and fraud, and so the Attorney General's office is really paying attention to that as well. So if you feel like you've been a victim of those, hopefully you're able to avoid it to begin with. But there is the Attorney General's office. You can contact them, Ken Paxton's office, and just let them know kind of what's going on. File a complaint. Again, it's better to go ahead and file that and have it on file instead of not and needing it later. All right. So anything else that you wanted to add?
And yes, now that the sun has come back out and it's gotten nice and hot and there's still standing water everywhere, mosquitoes, don't forget insect repellent. So when you start working on your house, insect repellent. Very, very important.
Right.
I was
So
cruising the internet and found a couple lists of frauds that have already been identified here in the city too.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So in addition to, we don't want to get sick from the food, the mosquitoes, there's lots of,
Zika.
Zika's one of those ones that are a concern right
And
now
West
as
Nile
well.
still.
Yep. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit more about avoiding fraud, and then avoiding stress, and then some more potential resources for.
I thought of one other thing.
Okay.
Also, your kids' toys. You want to disinfect those too. That was one of the things. You can make a cleaning mix with that for 1 cup of bleach per 5 gallons of water. Make sure you wash them really carefully and then let them air dry.
But those are the same as if they've been floating in flood water. You wanna
Right,
get rid
and
of
especially those stuffed
but
animals.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
hopefully the kid had it with them the whole time. But stuffed animals. It's kind of like the upholstered furniture. It'll just get stuck in there and get pretty gross. So.
All right, so we've got lots more to talk about, lots more good tips for you. So come back after this break. You're listening to the Extension Hour right here on Lone Star Radio. I keep wanting to say internet, but it's worldwide on the internet, but it's also community radio, and we're here all about talking about the community in Montgomery County and what you can do after the flood. We'll be right back.
Don't forget to download the Lone Star Community Radio app from your Google Play or Apple Store. Bring Montgomery County's community radio with you anywhere with your smartphone or tablet. If you are in the Conroe area, tune in on FM. That's Conroe's FM 104.5, 106.1. If you are on the computer, bookmark irlonestar.com as your internet radio station. A Lone Star Community Radio. Broadcasting 24/7 from the heart of downtown Conroe, Texas.
Hey guys, I'm Joey Savage.
Corey DLG.
We are Nerd Thug Radio. Catch us every Monday from 1 to 3 and check out our website, nerdthugradio.com.
We like to talk about quilting, horseback riding, and baking quiche.
Actually, we don't, but we do like talking nerdy to you.
That's right. Every Monday from 1 to 3 p.m., hashtag talking nerdy to you.
All right, we are back. We're talking all about after a disaster, what to do, some things that maybe that you hadn't thought about before. There is a lot to think about when floods come up. So the first thing is definitely being safe. And if you haven't heard it once, we'll say it again, turn around, don't drown. There's still going to be some roads that are covered with water. So we want to be careful with those, and still, just because it's not raining anymore doesn't mean that there's not danger on the roads. So
there could be water coming from up north that's going to make it rise even when the water stops. So some people don't realize that. I think it's just done when the sun comes out, and that's not necessarily always the case. You got to wait for it to crest.
Right. So we've been talking about things to do afterward. So talking about cleaning up your home, some things to think about, your food sources, anything that might have been contaminated by flood water. So all of those things, not to mention just living through a storm to begin with and all the fear, creates a lot of stress. Sometimes we just get so focused on, on the storm, we don't really think about how stress is affecting us, or ways to manage that stress until maybe later on after things have calmed down. Sometimes that's when people really have a very difficult time about it. If it's not PTSD, it's probably something very similar to PTSD that people experience, and it's a very real thing. So we want to talk a little bit about some coping mechanisms, and we've got Mike McBride with us, and he actually in your former life was a counselor, so This is kind of his forte. So I wanted to have him talk a little bit about handling stress.
Oh, there's so much information to cover here. I used to teach classes on stress management, but they lasted hours.
Yeah.
Because I can drone on and on and on.
You got 10 minutes.
Yeah. Give us the highlights.
A couple things to remember. Stress comes in two types. You can have good stress and bad stress. The lady that just won $650 million last week.
Good stress.
Good stress,
but
it's stressful. It's still unhealthy. Everyone in this community has been impacted to some degree or another by the storm, the floods. So there are various levels of stress that we all have right now. A lot of this is rooted in grief. So you can look at the stages of grief. You have the denial, anger, bargaining, depression, acceptance. You're going to go through that, and that's perfectly normal. It's okay.
Sure, because it's just like a loss. I mean, in lots of ways, it mimics a death, or it's
everything you've worked for.
You lose your house, you lose your car, you lose your security.
And even the sympathy for other people who have lost. I mean, you just see so much devastation around you. I mean, that empathetic stress can be there as well. So definitely.
So there's a lot of different ways to handle it. You can go on a rampage and be mad and cranky and take it out on everybody around you, or you can recognize your levels of stress and eat healthy. You can recognize your stress and do some exercise to burn out those extra chemicals. I guess the short biology of it, whenever you're under stress, the body puts out different chemicals for the fight or flight. A gazillion years ago, you're either going to eat the Tyrannosaurus Rex or he's going to eat you, so you need to run. Our bodies are designed to do that. But then you get back to your cave, you sit down, you relax, you chill, those hormones are gone. In today's world, with our caffeine, with our TV, the music we listen to, everything's getting us revved up, we never relax. Now you throw in Harvey on top of all that, oh my word. There's a ton of stress. So we need to find ways to relax. Exercise is a huge one. It burns up all those different chemicals. There's deep breathing exercises, meditation. But one thing that I think most adults have probably heard of all these things before, but one thing we don't think about is we have TVs going 24/7 with the flood news. You have mom and dad talking, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? Panic, panic, panic. There's little munchkins sitting by your feet who are listening to all this. And when they start acting out, when they start getting headaches, you don't want to turn around to them and just say, yeah, whatever, go away.
Right.
Listen to them, talk to them, because those babies are going under stress also.
Yeah, I think it. When the baby falls down, however you react to them, when they're learning to walk, if you go, oh my gosh, are you okay?
They cry.
Then they're like, something's wrong with me. But if you say, hey, you're all right, get on up, we're fine, it helps reduce that stress level and helps them develop some coping skills. So very good point. I mean, our children are watching what we're doing and developing their coping skills. And you think about what's going to happen to these children, the ones that are little right now that have seen this and experienced this. How is that going to affect them in the future, and how are they going to handle stress, and how are they going to cope with disasters? Because
children learn what they live.
Yeah.
Okay, one of the phrases that we used in counseling was approach determines response. How you come up to somebody really is going to define how they respond to you. So if you see the kid running around and you turn around and look and say, what's wrong with you? The kid's going to respond negatively. But you can ask general questions like, are you all right? You look like you're a little upset to me. And then listen to them. How many of us actually listen to our kids? I'm guilty of not listening. I'm too busy.
Or each other.
Yeah, or each other, true. But a lot of times if you are the caregiver, whether it's the next door neighbor who's talking with their friends who just lost their house, you don't need to say anything. Just talk or just listen. Be a good listener. If you did not lose a house, you can't come up and say, gee, I know exactly how you feel. No, you don't. But you can acknowledge your feelings.
Yeah. Loss is a very personal thing. So
Absolutely.
Definitely acknowledging that and providing empathy. But you got to be careful about, I know exactly what you're going through.
And it's very normal for a person when they lay down at night and they shut their eyes and all they see are visions of their living room, their car, or whatever. Those are perfectly normal and it will pass. What I would recommend, if you can't go to sleep, get up and go to another room and read a book. Don't watch a scary movie. Don't drink caffeinated tea. But when you begin to get drowsy, go back and lay down, and you'll train your body laying down as a time to sleep. And those images that are flashing through your mind uncontrollably, they will pass, but it may take a couple weeks to do that. Journaling is huge. You just sit down and start writing, this is what I'm thinking, what I'm feeling. If it's in your brain, let it come out on the pen and paper. Don't worry about grammar or periods. Just get it out and then throw it away when you're done.
Sure.
But recognizing what you're going through is the first step for you to be able to address it. Acknowledging, I'm more than a little bit stressed right now. We had a person in my neighborhood, one of the property owner association employees had a heart attack because of all the stress is what they're thinking. Because he's trying to help out too many people and who knows what all he lost in his own house.
Sure.
So you got to take care of yourself.
Right, yeah, that kind of goes back to what we were saying earlier. Take care of yourself so that you can take care of other people.
And your own family.
Yeah.
Yes.
And, there's nothing like a tragedy to show you what gratitude is and things to be grateful for. And so gratitude is a great way to help mitigate stress as well.
Right.
Just kind of focusing on those things that you are grateful for, and the bright side. Granted, there are times that it's harder to see the bright side, but there is things to be grateful for out there.
And when you can sit down and recognize what your plans are, or make some plans to just recognize the difficulties. Write that plan, and then that gives you motivation to start working on the plan, and you will recover faster. It's the person who sits down and says, okay, I need to be taken care of. Somebody's going to come rescue me. They live in that stress forever, and they never really recover. There was a story on TV earlier today of a family who got evacuated from their house, and the kids wanted to do something for the first responders. So they made them chocolate chip cookies and took it to them. Those kids felt like they were giving back. They're doing something for the community, and it helps. I know we got Woslow and Go Foods, things that you should or shouldn't eat, and chocolate chip cookies aren't a good diet, but once in a while, take care of yourself.
There's not no foods. So
Yeah, that's right. There's not any no food.
yeah, that's like a very awkward thing. But yeah, chocolate chip cookies are okay sometimes.
And
it
they burned
helps.
enough energy. Those
Yeah,
first
they
responders
have.
have burned enough energy in the past 5 days.
Exactly. Well, and Mike and I were talking in the office this morning about helping families when they call and they're upset. And so we can maybe share some of what we talked about regarding how we talk to our kids about what's happened.
You want to be gracious and slow with them. You're back to that approach determines response. If you come in as the authoritarian and oppressive, and what's the matter with you? Sit down, shut up. Dad's too busy right now. The kids are not going to get through this very well.
Sure.
But if you can take 2 minutes of your time, get down on your knees here, eye to eye with the kiddos. Hold them in your lap, whatever, so they're face to face with you, and just let them talk. And they will keep talking until they've had enough. Or if they keep asking questions, give them the information on their level. And they'll let you know when they're done, because they'll say, oh, look, a toy, and off they go, and they'll play again. But if they want to talk, do so. It would probably less than 5 minutes.
Right, because sometimes when we talk about stress management and coping, we think that you're not supposed to feel anything negative. Like if you're feeling negative, then you're not coping well. But that it doesn't mean that you can't be angry or you can't grieve or you're not supposed to feel sad. It is part of it, and part of that is feeling that and getting it out. But then also moving on is the important part of it. So you gotta let go of it so that you can focus on moving forward and getting better and recovering and doing what needs to be done.
And that's what I said before. If you can make a goal, the kids can have goals too. So they know that you're working towards something, that there will be an end to this. Everything's better. The one thing you should never do in stressful times like this, avoid caffeine, and absolutely do not drink alcohol or take other drugs, because it messes up how your body processes the stress.
Unless they're prescription drugs.
Take your medicines.
Take your medicines.
Yeah. I'm talking about street drugs.
Right,
but,
right, yeah, illicit drugs. Definitely, it's not the time to make it
Party.
worse.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so really good information here that we've been talking about. Some things that you can do after a disaster. Just want to mention one more time, there is a great resource that Texas A&M AgriLife Extension has. It's called After a Disaster, How to Recover. It's got 20 different sections about things that maybe you never even thought about that needs to be done. And that can be found at texashelp.tamu.edu, or you can call our office. What's our number, Mike?
That is 936-539-7825.
Yep,
And we've been posting great things on Facebook page.
So every day this week and even some last week on Healthy Living Montgomery County, we have tips, resources for our Montgomery County residents, local information, local links, and things to do to help you recover and get back on your feet.
But we do have a few more things to talk about, so we're going to take a break. When we come back, we've got a few more other little things that are just kind of maybe random, but important. So stay tuned. We'll be right back. You're listening to Lone Star Community Radio right here on 104.5 and 106.1 and worldwide on irlonestar.com. We'll be right back.
Our talk shows and music shows are looking for sponsors. Want to expand your brand awareness? Reach the hyper-local audience in Montgomery County? Lone Star Community Radio sponsorships accomplish this. Want to see our stats and rates? Check out irlonestar.com/sponsor for more information. Or call in and leave us a message at 936-647-3776.
Attention movie lovers, the Ticket Stub is a new radio show servicing Montgomery County that is meant for you. The Ticket Stub is available live every Thursday at noon on FM 104.5 and 106.1, as well as anytime on OurLoneStar.com. Connor and Dick will let you know what's coming out in the theater, what is worth streaming, and what's going on in the world of film. The Ticket Stub, your home for movie talk.
All right, thanks for hanging with us. We are here talking about after a disaster. We've talked a lot about food. We've talked about cleaning up. We've talked about coping with stress. But there was a few other little things that we wanted to make sure that we mentioned to you as we're talking about, what to do after a disaster. First of all, find good information. I mean, we've mentioned avoiding price gouging, avoiding fraud, but find some good, reliable sources. We mentioned the local Chamber of Commerce are great resources for information. Also, the Montgomery County Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Management. I mean, that's what they do. They're all about that. So they've got, they really have all the kind of information that you need. When it comes down to brass tacks of who do you call and what do you say. I mean, we're talking a lot about kind of general things that, to remember to do. But when you need some type of action, they're going to be a good one. One other resource I wanted to mention really quickly is the Sea Grant, which is it's actually a sister organization to Extension, and actually they have Extension agents who are marine Extension agents, and one of their focuses is healthy coastal ecosystems, and I'm sure right now that they're
Crazy.
Yes,
A mess.
Yeah, most definitely. But they have great links for post-Hurricane Harvey recovery resources. So shout out to Heather Wade and her group there. They put together a really nice list of things. So they're available at Texas Sea Grant, and that's C like SEA, so TEXASSEAGRANT. So TexasSeaGrant.org, and they've got some really good information there. And then, of course, the Extension office, give us a call. What's our number, Mike?
936
He was ready.
539-7825.
Or check
I
that
saw
out.
it coming.
I know.
Yes.
Facebook?
Healthy Living in Montgomery County. You can message us or send us a email or a text. We're there.
Yeah. Or our website.
Is montgomery.agrilife.org.
Yeah.
That's our county website. Also, we have a Facebook for just the Montgomery County Extension Office.
Sure.
Texas A&M AgriLife Extension, Montgomery County. Or Montgomery, I can't remember. I think it's Montgomery County first.
Yeah.
Anyway, I know
Google
April.
it.
Yeah, I know April posted some tips on people that are wanting to donate hay and animal products yesterday on there, and it's got some really good resources on there. So that is on our main office Facebook page.
Awesome. All right, so a couple last kind of things to remember, things that maybe you hadn't thought about. Michelle, you want to mention one? Because you have two, right?
I do
one,
have
and we'll
two.
Go to Mike. We'll go back.
I do have two. Personal experience.
Yeah.
So one thing is a home well. If you have your own home water well system, you do want to make sure that if it's been underwater, you've got that power off to it, that you take the time to inspect it, make sure that things are okay, but you need to disinfect that well. And you can do that by simply adding some chlorine to the tank and giving it some time. You can have the water tested at any local water well resource center. We at the office do not do that. We get that call a lot, but local well services do handle water testing, and most of the time there's not much of a charge for it. And then generator safety, of course, follow the instructions given with the generator, but please remember that that is a toxic gas. It releases carbon monoxide. Don't run your generators indoors or in your garage. I know a lot of people
Outside only.
have called concerned about, they're going to get stolen or they're going to get rained on, but they do need to be outside when they're running. It's a big safety issue.
All right. Another thing to think about is car seats. So if you have a car seat for your child, a child safety seat, so not just a seat that's in a car, child passenger safety restraint, if the car seat was totally submerged in water, it can't be used. So that the webbing that's part of the harness that holds the child into the vehicle, it can't even be washed. The outside, so the fabric cover of those can be taken off and washed, because kids do crazy things to those fabric covers. So those can definitely be washed, but the harness cannot be washed because the webbing, it will affect the integrity of it. So if it's been submerged, then it needs to be disposed of. So they can only be spot cleaned with soap and water. And if it's damp, smells like mold, just don't use it. Just get a new one. Lots of resources here in Montgomery County. For that, we've got some booster seats that we have that we can issue from our office. The Montgomery County Hospital District has car seat checks every Wednesday, and they've got replacement seats that are economical.
But you have to make an appointment with them.
You do have to make an appointment with Ashton. And then once a month, the Montgomery County Montgomery County Safe Kids group does a check around the county. So those are options for your car seats if you have any questions.
And is that covered under your car insurance?
I would assume so. I mean, it kind of depends, I guess, on the insurance. I know.
Your policy.
Yeah, your policy. When a car seat is in a crash, then it the car seat has to be replaced, and usually that is covered by the insurance. So, insurance is another.
That's
we
a
get
whole
tangled
other
web. A whole other topic, most definitely.
Yes, but it is worth checking into.
For sure. Yeah. Find out what you've got covered for, and then, like we mentioned before, register with FEMA. Just register if you've experienced any kind of damage, so that it's much better to be registered and not need it than not need it and not be registered. And then, Mike, you were saying one more thing when we were talking about stress.
Yeah, the stress management. Find time to have a little bit of fun. Go out and throw a ball with your puppies. Play with your kiddos. Go for a walk. My own neighborhood is going to have a kind of spontaneous picnic on the 4th. Just because we all reached out and helped those people that got flooded in my neighborhood. So now we want to get to know each other. We work together so to get to meet each other now. So find things like that you can do that are positive. They're everywhere, even in crises like this. I don't know if you guys saw the video of the family trying to catch a catfish in their living room. Everybody was laughing and giggling. They're coping well as best they can.
Well, and there was those singers at the Lone Star Convention Center, and they were actually featured on Good Morning America yesterday. They just showed up, and they wanted to sing for everybody just to kind of lift spirits. And so they went into the middle of the Lone Star Convention Center and started singing gospel music, and everybody was clapping, and it just kind of lifted everybody's spirits for a minute and kind of took their mind off of everything going on.
Right. Yeah, just because, I mean, there is disaster all around, and not to lessen that at all, but that doesn't mean that we have to be somber all the time.
Yeah, be nice to yourself.
Yeah, definitely. And the other thing that I would mention too is to be vigilant. You mentioned our website, and some people have been calling and they want to donate hay. I mean, there's a lot of people right now that want to donate a lot of things, which is great. It's awesome. But a month from now, a couple of months from now, people are still going to be hurting, and people are going to still need supplies, and still need help, and still need coping techniques, and will still be stressed. In fact, I mean, I think of it sort of like, whenever there's like a funeral, everybody's there, they bring food, they give you lots of comfort, and then everyone goes away, and you're still hurting, and people seem to forget. So, I hope that we can continue. It's been awesome to hear all the stories about all the great things that people are doing. So, hopefully we'll be kind to ourselves, and hopefully we'll continue to be kind to each other as well, so that we can keep that spirit of giving going. And so, definitely donate now, but, in about a month or so, maybe check around and see if people need hay or need food or need a blanket or...
And I just say, if you can remember, the people that are trying to help you, like with FEMA or the first responders, your insurance people, they're dealing with a lot of stress also. So before you pop off at them and start screaming and yelling,
they're just doing their job too.
They're just doing their job. They have a lot of stress. Just take a deep breath and think of it. What is it that you really want to say?
Sure.
And good manners right now are important. Just to get along with everybody.
And a chocolate chip cookie every once in a while too.
Give me a cookie. I'm your friend for life.
And then go take a nice walk in the sunshine.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely the sunshine, the vitamin D, very important for people.
Yes.
All right. So, like I mentioned, at some point we will get back to normal, whatever normal is. We'll start resuming our lives again. We'll start having our classes that we have in Extension at Texas A&M AgriLife Extension Service, because really, like I said before, we're all about helping people make their lives better and responding to community needs. And, right now, the community needs to recover from Harvey. But in the future, we'll get back to some of those other kinds of things. So, Michelle and your Better Living for Texans classes, we've got a minute, so tell them a little bit about what you can offer.
In Better Living for Texans, we have multiple programs based on what helps the wellness of a family. Well, so that would be food safety, meal planning, budgeting, ways to lose weight or get fitness into your day without spending a bunch of money or having to have a gym membership. We work with everything that the family needs. And we do have some classes that are open to the public at the Oscar Johnson Community Center coming up. On Wednesdays is geared toward families with preschoolers. So it's going to be reading and then basic nutrition. And then on Fridays, we're going to start some step up to scale down classes. And that's Friday mornings at the Oscar Johnson Community Center. And it's introducing families to ways to get active without having to buy equipment or having to go to a gym.
Yeah. So, I mean, some of those, I was just thinking about some of those families that are like, I have to have bread because I don't know what else to feed my family.
Exactly.
Now's a good time in the next few months and, into the future so that you don't get caught in a rough situation again. Or, you may get caught in a rough situation because you can't always control it, but a way to help make that just a little easier to handle. So if you develop some skills for,
stocking that healthy pantry with some shelf-stable items kind of gives you a little bit to go on when something hits you out of the blue.
Yeah.
Normally, I would tell people you want to keep your life as normal and standard, bedtimes and reading and whatever.
Sure.
But this is an absolutely perfect time to break old habits. You're right.
Mm-hmm.
You're already in chaos, so.
Well, to break old and develop better,
New,
healthier
healthy
habits.
Absolutely. Replace the old ones with something new.
Exactly.
Right. But if you already had healthy habits, pick those back up. But just, it's a good time to kind of get rid of those old habits because, who needs them, right?
Fresh start.
That's to a healthier you.
Dun, dun, dun.
We're laughing because that's the name of one of the curriculum
It
that
is.
Michelle teaches. Fresh start to a healthier you. So thanks for joining us today after the disaster. Like I said, if you need a resource, please don't hesitate to give us a call. What's the number, Mike?
936-539-7825.
And then you can download this document that we've been talking about at texashelp.tamu.edu. And it's the end of the hour, and all my words are running together now. But thank you so much for joining us. And if there's any way we can help, feel free to give us a call. You're listening to Lone Star Community Radio right here on 104.5, 106.1, worldwide, irlonestar.com, and we will see you next time.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks for checking out this podcast of Lone Star Community Radio, Montgomery County's community radio station. If you enjoyed this recording, make sure to check out our past shows online at irlonestar.com or their respective video or podcast formats on YouTube, Google Play, or iTunes. If you have any questions regarding the show, either it being about sponsorships or questions for the host, contact the station manager at dick@irlonestar.com or call the station at 936-647-3776. This show is recorded in downtown Conroe, Texas at the Lone Star Community Radio Studios, and Lone Star Community Radio reserves all rights to this recording and images.